creatures of the wild were holding their breath. I gazed up to the towering heights of the tall trees. No leaf was stirring. The silence seemed strained and expectant, like a young boy waiting for a firecracker to explode. I looked at old Dan. He was standing perfectly still with his right front foot raised and his long ears fanned open. He seemed to be listening and challenging any living creature to make a noise. The silence was broken by the whee of a red-tailed hawk. This seemed to be the signal. All around me, the happy atmosphere resumed its natural state. I heard the bam, bam, bam of a woodpecker high in the top of a box elder snag, the cry of a kingfisher and the scream of a blue jay blended perfectly with the drum beat. A barking red squirrel, glued to the side of a huckleberry tree, kept time to the music with the beat of his tail. Each noise I heard and each sight I saw was very familiar to me, but I never grew tired of listening and watching. They were a God-sent gift, and I enjoyed them all. As I skipped along, it was hard for me to realize all the wonderful things that had happened to me in such a few short years. I had two of the finest hounds that ever bawled on the trail of the ring-tailed coon. I had a wonderful mother and father and 3 little sisters. I had the best grandpa a boy ever had, and to top it all, I was going on a championship coon hunt. It was no wonder that my heart was bursting with happiness. Wasn't I the luckiest boy in the world? Everyone was just sitting down to supper when I got home. My sisters quit the table for the candy. I told them to divide it equally. The oldest one asked if I wanted any of it. No, I said, I brought it all for you. Of course I didn't tell them about the 4 pieces I had in my pocket. They thanked me with their clear blue eyes. I guess it's pretty hard for a young boy to fool his mama. She took one look at me and called me over. She ruffled up my hair and kissed me and said, if my little boy's eyes get any bigger, they're going to pop right out of his head. Now tell me, what are you so happy about? Before I could say anything, Papa chuckled and asked, what's going on between you and Grandpa? What are you and that old man cooking up now? As fast as I could talk, I started telling about the big coon hunt. I told how hard Grandpa had been working to have my dogs entered and how he had already paid my entry fee. Catching my breath and looking at Papa, I said, we're going on his buggy and he wants you to go. I waited in silence for his reply. Papa sat there staring off into space, sipping his coffee and saying nothing. I knew he was thinking. In the silence, I was sure I could hear my heart thumping. I said, Papa, please go. We'll have a lot of fun. Besides, the winner receives a big golden cup. He scratched his head and said, Billy, I sure would like to go, but I don't see how I can with all this work around here. I was beginning to think that Papa was going to go, and Mama started talking. Work, she said. Why, all the work is practically done. I don't know of one thing you couldn't put off for a few days. Why don't you go? You haven't been anywhere since I don't know when. It's not only the work I'm thinking of, Papa said. It's you and the girls. Well, don't worry about the girls and me, Mama said. We'll be all right. Besides, it'll be several months yet before I need any help. When Mama said this, it dawned on me. I had been so busy with my coon hunting, I hadn't noticed anything unusual. Mama's tummy was all swelled up. She was going to have a baby. I felt guilty for not having noticed. I went over and put my arms around her and kissed her. Papa spoke up. It's sure going to be a big hunt, he said. I heard something about it up at the store one day. Grandpa said there would be hunters there from everywhere. I said, some of the best coon hounds in the country. Do you think you have a chance to win the cup? Papa asked. I started to answer him when the little one pipped up. They can't beat old Dan and little Ann, she said. Just bet they can't. Everyone laughed at her serious remark. I would have kissed her, but she had candy, cornbread, and molasses all over her face. I told Papa I didn't know how good those dogs were, but there was one thing I did know. If they beat mine, they would have to hunt harder than they had ever had before. After I had had my say about the dogs, a silence settled over the dining room. Everyone was looking at Papa and waiting for his answer. I saw a pleased smile spread over his face. He stood up. All right, I'll go, he said. And by golly, we'll bring that gold cup back too. My sisters started clapping their hands and squealing with delight. A satisfied smile spread over my mother's face. At that moment, I'm sure no boy in the world could have been happier than I. Tears of happiness rolled down my cheeks. Mama wiped them away with her apron. Anyway. In the midst of all the excitement, my little sister, saying not a word, climbed down from her chair. No one said anything. We just watched her. Still clutching a spoon in her small hand, she came around the table and walked up to me. Looking down at the floor in a bashful voice, she asked, "Can I have the gold cup?" Putting my finger under her sticky little chin, I tilted her head up. I smiled as I looked into her clear blue eyes. I said, "Honey, if I win it, I'll give it to no one but you." I had to cross my heart and hope to die several times before she was satisfied. Back in her chair, she gloated over the others. "You just wait," and she said, "it'll be all mine, nobody's but mine, and I'll put my banty eggs in it." "Silly, you don't put banty eggs in a gold cup," the oldest one said. "They're just made to look at." The night I dreamed about golden cups, little red hounds and coons as big as rain barrels. Once I woke myself up whooping to my dogs. The next few days were busy ones for me. Knowing that Papa and I would be gone for several days, I did everything I could do to make things convenient for Mama. I chopped down a large pile of wood and stacked it close to the kitchen door. To make it easy for her to feed our stock, I cut some poles from the hillside and boxed up one of the stalls in the barn. I filled it full of hay so she wouldn't have to climb the ladder to the loft. Papa laid down the law to my sisters about being good and helping Mama while we were gone. The day before we were to leave, I was as nervous as a June bug in a henhouse. The day seemed endless. A few of the miserable hours were spent talking to my dogs. I told them all about the big hunt and how important it was. "Now, if you don't win the golden cup," I said, "I won't be mad because I know you will do your best." Old Dan wouldn't even look at me and paid no attention to what I said. He was sulking because I hadn't been taking him hunting. When I talked to little Ann, it was different. She listened and seemed to understand everything I said. I dreaded to go to bed that night. I thought sleep would be impossible. I must have been more tired than I thought I was. I fell asleep almost immediately. Old Red, our rooster, woke me at daybreak, crowing his fool head off. It was a beautiful morning, clear and frosty. After a good breakfast, we kissed Mama goodbye and started for the store. I'm sure there were a lot of coon hunters in the Ozarks, but on that morning, none could have felt as big and important as I. Walking along by the side of my father, I threw out my chest and tried hard to keep the pace with his long strides. He noticed and laughed. "You'll have to grow a little bit," he said, "before you can take steps that long." I didn't say anything, I just smiled. Hearing the noise overhead, I looked up. The gray ones were ringing their way southward. I listened to their talking and wondered what they were saying. Looking to the mountains around us, I saw that the mysterious artist who comes at night had paid us a visit. I wondered how he could paint so many different colors in one night: red, wine, yellow, and rust. My dogs were trotting along in front of us. I smiled at the way their hindquarters shifted to the right. Little Ann would jump and bounce and try to get old Dan to play, but the solemn old boy just jogged along, heedless of everything. "You know, Papa said she doesn't even act like a hound. She's bouncing and playing all the time. Why, she acts more like a little pup than a hound." "Yes, I know," I said. "I've noticed that myself. But you know one thing, Papa, she's the smartest dog I've ever seen. Why, some of these things she does are almost unbelievable." "Yes, I know," said Papa, "but it's still strange, very strange. There's only one thing wrong with her, Papa," I said. "Yeah, what's that?" he asked. "You won't believe it," I said, "but she's gun-shy." "Gun-shy? How do you know she's gun-shy?" Papa asked. "I didn't know for a long time," I said, "until one day when I was hoeing corn down the field by the old slough. She and old Dan were digging a bank after a groundhog. Across the river, some fishermen started shooting a gun. It scared little Ann. She came running to me, shaking all over. Aw, Papa said, maybe you just thought she was scared. No, I didn't, Papa, I said. It happened again up at the store one day. Grandpa shot a chicken hawk. When the gun went off, it scared her half to death. She's gun shy, all right. Oh, well, Pop said, that doesn't mean anything. A lot of dogs are afraid of guns. I know, Pop, I said, but you wouldn't think she would be that way. I believe if I had a gun of my own, I could break her of being gun shy. Papa looked at me. He said, from what your mother says, you won't be getting a gun for some time yet. Yes, I know, I said. When we reached the store, we saw the team was already hitched to the buggy and was standing in front of the store. Grandpa had loaded the tent and several boxes of groceries. I had never seen him in such high spirits. He slapped Grandpa on the back, saying, I'm sure glad you could go with us. It'll do you good to get out once in a while. Papa laughed and said, it looked like I had to go or have everyone in the family mad at me. Looking in the buggy, I saw my axe. I didn't think I ever want to see it again. For some reason, it didn't look like I thought it would. There was no blood on it. It looked harmless enough laying there all clean and bright. Grandpa saw me looking at it. He came over. I kept it a few days, he said, just in case the marshal wanted to ask some questions. Everything seems to be all right now, and we may need a good axe on this hunt. Grandpa sensed how I felt about the axe. He waited in silence for my answer. The excitement of the hunt was so strong in me, even the sight of the axe brought back only a fleeting remembrance of Reuben's accident. I said, yes, we will need one. Besides, it's a good one, and there's no use in throwing it away. Grandpa laughed, reached over, and screwed my cap around on my head, saying, That's the boy. That's what I wanted you to say. Now you'd better go to the barn and get some hay and make a bed in the buggy box for your dogs. Grandpa, I said, they can walk. They don't ever get tired. Besides, they're used to walking. Walk, Grandpa almost shouted. We're not going to walk. No, sir, not if I can help it. You want them to be footsore when we get there? Papa chuckled and said, we can't win a gold cup with two sore-footed hounds, can we? Of course not, Grandpa said. Now you go and get that hay like I said. As I turned to go to the barn, I couldn't help but smile. It made me feel good to have my Papa and Grandpa so concerned about my dogs. I had taken only a few steps when Grandpa said, oh, wait a minute. I stopped and turned around. Walking up to me and glancing towards the house as he did, he whispered, in that empty crot barrel in the harness room, there's a jug of corn liquor. Cover it up in the hay so your grandma won't see